Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back with another video. So, this video is going to be another response to Kayson Verne because I found out that he's still talking about me and I don't like that. Believe it or not, it's not that anyone told me, it's that I literally just got a feeling in the back of my head like that boy's still talking about me, ain't he? And apparently, he is. So, upon my honor as a ghetto kid from New York City, I felt the need to respond. Right? Apparently, this was part of a conversation he was having with Vicky and Vance, who are subscribed to my Twitter. Speaking of which, the Girl Boss video is coming. Vicky and Vance, I will get there. But since Kayson wants to invoke my good name and doesn't understand that he should leave me the hell alone and stop mentioning me, well then, I'm going to respond. Because see, you learn real quick in the ghetto, especially when you grow up on the mean streets of New York City. You grow up in the ghetto in New York City, that when people talk about you, especially when they do it behind your back, and you find out, you need to respond. You can't let that go unanswered. Right? You can't let your rep be tarnished. And my rep has always been about, or at least as an adult, I should say, my rep is about speaking up and speaking out whenever I see something wrong. So if you're going to talk about me, boy, I'm going to respond. So here's what he says in part. It was a three-part conversation. I'm isolating this one because this is the middle section that talks about me. So obviously this is the part I'm going to focus on. But there are links upon links upon links in the description of the video if you are so interested in seeing the full story, reading all the tea. Okay? Okay. So he writes, I owe an apology to Jean. Yes, you do, Kayson. I'll never get it because you're too much of a coward, but yeah, you do owe me an apology. The women, I am not Ermac. I am not a collection of souls. I am a woman, singular, not plural, though I do have a lot of opinions. The woman who accused me of what I didn't do, she accused me of being this misogynist pig. No, I didn't. I responded to you in sarcasm because you, the 22-year-old Democratic Socialist, kept trying to tell me, the 36-year-old apolitical, someone who's lived long enough to have faith in politics and then lose it, unlike you. You kept trying to tell me who I am and what my belief system is. You see, I am an apolitical person who remains aware of current and political events because, see, I'm impacted by the decisions of these lawmakers and mayors and presidents and governors and all this other stuff, right? So for better or worse, I need to be aware of it because I live with their decisions. For example, even though I did not vote for and nor do I support the Democratic Party, or in particular Cuomo or de Blasio, the elected oppressors of New York City, right? I have to deal with their decisions, like when they locked down New York City for a week last summer because of the George Floyd protests and the violence that the protest devolved into many nights, even during the curfew, right? Still, there was plenty of violence, and I made videos about that. Videos that you probably didn't even check out because you're not interested in what I have to say. You're interested in telling me who I am. So no, I never called you a misogynist because, see, that would indicate sexism. I don't know if you're a sexist. What I do know is that according to Google, you're a bigot. Because Google defines the word bigot as a person who is obstinately or unreasonably attached to a belief, opinion, or faction, especially one who is prejudiced against or antagonistic toward a group, toward a person, or people on basis of their membership of a particular group. You see, you fit that description of bigot, or at least your responses to me fit that much more than misogynist did. But you decided to take my sarcastic responses to you and say that I was calling you a misogynist. I looked through all of my replies to you, boy. I never called you a misogynist or a sexist or anything like that. I asked a question with a sarcastic tone because that's what I do when people stop making sense. in their debate toward me, when they start going for ad hominems, when they start attacking me instead of attacking and debating and trying to disprove what I say, right? So when you start doing that, I start responding in sarcasm because there's no point in responding seriously to you anymore after that happens. And I didn't accuse you of anything. If there had been an accusation, I would have taken it to Twitter. Because, see, in my world, where I hold down a real job, where I've been working for 10 years now, when someone makes an accusation, you have to go through a very long and detailed process where you have to actually fill out paperwork explaining exactly what the accusation is and how it violates policy. And then you have to sit in front of the investigator, the person who's going to look into the matter, and explain to them what happened, why you think what happened is a violation of policy. You see, my professional life has taught me to take accusations seriously, and as such, I don't make accusations, right, unless there's a serious reason for it. You are not serious enough a reason for me to report anything, right? So believe me, Kayson, I did not accuse you of anything. You took my response and you twisted it in your own head to be an accusation of misogyny when it wasn't. I have a very sarcastic, biting sense of humor, especially when people start to annoy me. Remember that. There's a difference between an accusation and an older woman's sarcastic humor. Right? And then he says, she defends racists who childishly rant against human rights on social media, even though the company she worked for warned her multiple times to stop doing it, and also had an argument toward a colleague about pronouns. In other words, he's talking about the Gina Carano situation when he and I got into a bit of an argument about that. As I said before, Kayson, remember, I have the images, I have the links, I have the tweets, I have the receipts, as the saying goes. Yeah, I stand by Gina. I stand by Gina. I stand with Gina. Because Gina didn't do anything wrong. Okay? She's the actual strong, independent woman that Disney claims and Lucasfilm claims they want, right? They build characters with this idea in mind, like Cara Dune, like Ahsoka Tano, yet when they actually get someone who won't bow easily, right? Who will speak her own mind even when she gets in trouble for it, right? They decide to fire her because she actually denounced hate. I remember the tweet that got, or rather the TikTok, whatever the hell it was, that got her fired, referencing the Jews, was one where she was talking about how neighbor turned against neighbor, right? And how the climate that allowed for something like the Holocaust to happen didn't just randomly appear one day. How it slowly built up, and the first thing that happened is that people in Germany, because of the government, looked at Jews as an acceptable target, right? Acceptable target for their hatred. So they turned on their neighbor. This is well-known, documented historical fact, right? Jews had to hide in people's homes, hide in the basement, and pray that the person that they were hiding, right, the person who owned the home they were hiding in wasn't going to sell them out, right? Sometimes they got out okay, and then other times you had, and more often, sadly, you had, say, like Anne Frank. Have you ever read The Diary of Anne Frank, Kayson? Have you ever even heard of that? Because if you're even if you are casually familiar with the Diary of Anne Frank, you will understand that what Gina was talking about in the post that got her fired is very true. And that she was denouncing hatred and pointing out that political hatred is not really all that different than hatred for another person's religion. Hell, I just did a video about hatred via group affiliation when a woman online, Fiona Quiggs, threatened to punch people who were going to wear and who were going to purchase a Fandom Menace t-shirt called Welcome to the Rebellion, and I denounced the hate there. I just made a video denouncing the hateful rhetoric and mindset that Marina Sirtis, right, displayed toward people in Texas, right? I pointed out the Schadenfreude and all that. Probably a too big a word, right? German and all that, right? But it's basically taking pleasure in another person's pain and suffering because you feel they deserve it. I denounce this type of stuff time and time and time again. Every once in a while, in between ranting about comic books and video games and everything else that I rant about, because believe it or not, I'm not a political channel. I have over 300 videos, and not even 100 of them are political or social. I don't often talk about these things until I feel I need to, right? I didn't make, I think, any political video until like last summer, because I was literally locked down because of what was happening. So yes, I make these videos on occasion, but I don't do it often because I have other things I would rather talk about. But yes, I've repeatedly, through my videos and through my tweets, denounced hatred. I will continue to denounce hatred. I support Gina Carano because she denounced hatred. But please, please, Kayson, continue to allow Cenk Uygur to do your thinking for you. Right? The same Cenk Uygur who still calls his show The Young Turks despite how the Armenians feel about it. Oh, that's right. I almost forgot. He for a very long time denied the Armenian genocide and the Turks' roles in it. Right? But I'm the problem here for supporting an actress who risked her job and lost her job to speak her mind. My. I'm such a bad person for supporting somebody who was calling for peace in a very volatile time. Oh my days. Right. The woman who calls herself apolitical, even though she's obviously not because she has a strong interest in politics and makes whatever excuse she can to call herself apolitical. Again, I don't live up to what your idea of apolitical is. Your idea of apolitical seems to be that I should have no opinions about anything. Or rather, let's be honest here, Kayson. It isn't the fact that I have opinions about things. It's that I'm not a Democrat. Remember, you're the Democratic Socialist, right? It's because I'm not a Democrat and I have the nerve, like Gina Carano, to actually voice my opinion on things, right? Again, I do not participate in the political system. Does not mean that I cannot have an opinion on things, because again, I live in the world, I live in the city. I work in a profession where, yes, changes in law, which are often caused by politics, impact my job. Changes in politics, like changes of leadership, for example, or existing leadership, decisions made by people I didn't choose still impact my life and the lives of many others, regardless of whether or not they voted for someone or they didn't. So yes, I remain aware of current events. And I call out politicians when they do something wrong. Okay? I've called out Lori Lightfoot. Have you? I've called out Bill de Blasio. Have you? I've called out Governor Cuomo. Have you? I don't think so. Because you probably believe that what they do is right. I don't. You see, it's hard for me to support politicians when many of the businesses around the little neighborhood I live in are closed or struggling to survive, because guess what? The decisions made about how to manage COVID are largely political and don't have a lot to do with actual public health. Okay? The Chinese restaurant where I'm at is closed. I have no idea if it's going to be reopened. The laundromat that I used to go to closed since mid-December. I have no idea if it's ever going to open again. Businesses are dying, and while there's nothing I can do to stop that, I can at least speak out and criticize the people who make these decisions. Right? So there's a little bit that I can do. But again, you don't like the fact that I'm calling out your side, right? You don't like the fact that I'm an apolitical with an opinion. Because see, for you, I would have to be a good person and be Dem, even though I don't believe it in the Democratic Party or their positions, or keep my opinions to myself. I refuse to do either, so I speak my mind, and that irritates you. Right? I don't support Bernie Sanders either. Remember, he's the Democratic Socialist, right? The millionaire, right? The millionaire who's been in politics all his life, who likes to present himself as the angry young man grown old, right? You probably don't know the song Kayson because it's very old, but Billy Joel wrote this song called Angry Young Man, which kind of reminds me of you because, he points out the foolishness, right, in these young revolutionaries who never learn from their mistakes and never learn and never understand why they keep getting their hearts broken whenever they engage in politics, right? And there's a part of the song where he talks about how he's reached the age, right, where he's beyond conscious, righteous rage, right, and he realizes that uh, surviving itself is a noble fight, right? I once believed in causes too, had my pointless point of view, and life went on no matter who was wrong or right. That's kind of the stance I take, right? That I've been through all that, and I've realized that my opinion in the end doesn't matter because politicians don't care. But I'm not gonna, fault people for still participating if they want to. I just say, hey, I've played this game, right? It's like gambling for me, right? I don't gamble. Just because I don't gamble doesn't mean that I've never gambled in life or that I don't know how to play cards. I can play poker. I just choose not to. Because, again, I don't believe in the system. It doesn't mean that I cannot comment on it. I will continue to comment on it, especially if it irritates you. Right? And then he says, I never used dirty tactics. That's projection. All you've been doing is using dirty tactics. Again, I had to look this up because you don't have the guts to actually unblock me and let me see this so that I can respond on Twitter. So all you've been doing is using dirty tactics. Don't forget, you accused me of referring to BLM as savages, which I never did. I literally watched that video back to make sure. I never once used the word savages to refer to BLM, and knowing you, right, BLM equals black people. I would never say that about African Americans. We are not savages. But I will not back down from what I said about BLM. I don't believe that the organization BLM has anything good in its heart, collectively speaking, for the African American community. Not when they repeatedly, over the summer, agreed with and supported protests that turned to riots that caused violence for everybody. But guess where we got hit the hardest, Chief? The African American community, the immigrant community, the brown community. And what did Lori Lightfoot do? Not a damn thing. That video you picked out, right, where you went to my Twitter, not my Twitter, where you went to my YouTube account, literally looked through probably close to 100 videos to find the one from August that I did, where I used a very controversial title. Did you think I didn't realize people were going to have a response to that? I'm not a fool. I know exactly what I'm doing when I put a controversial title in my video, right? And I spent 30 minutes pouring my heart out over the plight of African Americans in Chicago, where they have a black female lesbian mayor in Lori Lightfoot who does absolutely nothing to make things better or to make them safe or prosperous. She let it continue because it was politically expedient for her. That's why she did it. Same way, right? She locks down the city of Chicago, but suddenly it's okay to come out by the hundreds, right? And definitely violate social distance to celebrate Biden's victory. She's a political tool just like anybody else. She does not care about the black community. And I will point that out all the livelong day. I'm not scared of BLM. I will point out when their actions harm the communities that I live in and that people I know live in and people I don't know live in, because I don't live in Chicago. I don't know anybody in Chicago, but bad leadership is bad leadership, and I will call out bad leadership any and everywhere I see it. And I don't care if the person or the organization is black or represents the black people. If it's bad, I call it out. It's that simple. I support people who organized 93% protest and want justice for Ahmaud Arbery, Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Eric Gardner. Well, guess what? Those people who organized 93% of the protest need to come out and denounce the 7% that devolved to violence and caused deeper racial divides in this country and burned down sections of cities. They need to come out and denounce things like Chaz and denounce things like violence so bad in lockdown New York City for a week. Couldn't go outside past 8 o'clock. Unless you had a picket sign. Tearing down, neighborhoods, right, in immigrant and black communities, right? Stealing and breaking down ATMs, tearing down an older black woman's restaurant in acts of senseless violence, burning down buildings in Minnesota, affordable housing units that probably would have gone to black people, or at least a majority of. So yeah, I denounce that, and I wish that the supposed 93% of peaceful protesters would have denounced the violence, because I didn't see too much of that. I didn't see too much denouncing of the violence last summer. You know what I saw? I saw media, I saw politicians, I saw actors, actresses, athletes, and BLM endorse this time and again. Say that the violence was justified because of long, how do I put it? Because of long-standing racial tensions and issues between the police and the African American community. And if you actually did your research and watched the videos I made back in June of last year talking about that, you would have seen that I called out both the way the police respond to black people and police culture in general and said it needs to change. But I also called out this idea that every single person who is harmed, let's say, or sadly killed or whatever by the cops is not a saint either. I've done several videos about that, approaching it from both sides, because see, I understand that it is a very nuanced process. Yes, the cops at times do things that are absolutely awful. Again, for example, the death of Amadou Diallo, right? Shot nearly 40 times. And he wasn't even armed. He had his wallet on him. And the cops got away with it. That's injustice. Right? And I always bring that up. I've mentioned that several times. So you see here, young man, I know what I'm talking about. You don't have to agree with me, but I know what I'm talking about. Right? But before you talk about BLM, before you talk about Black Lives Matter, then Black lives need to matter to us, actual black people. We have to be the ones to love ourselves as a community before we love anyone else. It starts inside. It starts in the home. And we have a lot of issues in our community. But you don't want to talk about that. You ain't ready for that conversation, Kayson. And want justice for Ahmaud Arbery and Tamir Rice and Trayvon and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Eric Gardner. Guess what? I want justice in a lot of those instances too. I think that the Breonna Taylor situation is tragic, and I disagree with a lot of people, in particular, what's his face, the officer Tatum, right, Brandon Tatum. He said that Breonna more or less got what she deserved because of who she hung out with. I view it differently, because it was her boyfriend who started the shootout, and the police fired so randomly and so wildly that one of the cops fired into a different apartment and damn near killed a woman there. But guess what? There won't be justice for Breonna. You know why? Because Breonna's own family took a $12 million settlement where the police don't have to admit guilt. If they don't have to admit guilt, nothing changes. And guess what? They'll never see that $12 million because a third of it alone goes to your attorneys. It's not a legal judgment. A settlement is not a legal judgment. A settlement is typically what happens so you avoid going to court. Did you know that, Kayson? See, I know that because I used to be a paralegal major. I know that because I work with attorneys. Brianna's family sold out her memory for $12 million. And that is why there will never be any justice in her name. That's them. Blame her family. Don't blame me for pointing it out. And yes, I want justice for Eric Gardner and his family. I think that the cops choking him out was a terrible thing. Right? Trayvon Martin is the very reason I got interested in paralegal studies, because I felt that his death was unjust and that the acquittal of George Zimmerman was completely unfair. Right? So yes, I want justice for these people too. But you know who else I want justice for, who you don't mention in this response here? I want justice for David Dorn. He was a black man who was killed during the riots. Does his life matter? It matters to me. Does it matter to you? Remember that David Dorn was killed by another black man who shot him in the head like a dog. You know why? Because, how do I put this? Remember that David Dorn had been a police officer. He had been a police captain, right? Spent his life serving his community through the police force, through law enforcement for damn near 40 years. I think it was 30 years, 38 years in the force. And you know why he died? Because he went out to protect a friend's business. Why did he go out to protect a friend's business? Because of the rioting. The same rioting that a good chunk of BLM supported. That's why he died. That's why another black person took a gun and shot him in the head like a dog. So does his life matter to you, Kayson? Because it matters a whole lot to me. And it matters to his family, who will never see him again in this life, who lost him for absolutely stupid, senseless reasons. Again, black lives only matter when black people start valuing our lives and each other's lives. We have to love ourselves first. If we don't, then the slogan means nothing. Then the organization means nothing. Right? Or what about Cannon Hinnett? Remember him? I did a video about him. If you don't remember him, Kayson, he was a 5-year-old white boy just playing outside in front of his yard. 5 years old. He gets shot in the face and killed by a black adult, by a black man, who had just literally eaten with his family. Still to this day, don't know why that man did that. Does it matter? What reason can you give? What excuse can you give to shoot a 5-year-old boy in the face? Does his life matter to you? Because it matters to me. He should still be here. Cannon and David and many others should still be here today. And they're not. Their lives matter to me, even though I didn't know them personally. There was no reason for them to die. And that's why I still talk about them. That's why I mention them. Because they didn't deserve their fates. They did nothing wrong, especially a 5-year-old boy. The only thing that boy deserved was treats and cookies and fun. What he got paid in return was his own death by a stranger. And the media hardly covered it. You know why? Because his killer was a black man. And the media didn't want to go against the black people oppressed narrative. So tell me, Kayson, do those lives matter? Because they matter a hell of a lot to me. Now here's the thing, Kayson. I'm tired of you. So do me a favor. See, there's this song by Pantera, probably a bit before your time, but it's called Walk. And it's about someone like you, someone who likes to talk behind another person's back. So I'm going to give you a little bit of advice, Kayson. Follow the walk rule. Okay? Be yourself by yourself. Stay away from me. Okay? Don't mention my name. Don't talk about me. Because if you do, I will continue to make response videos about you. And I will continue to call you out. So please, for both our sakes, don't mention me again. To quote the song, Walk, use the last few lines in the song. You better walk on home, boy. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good day or night wherever you are. Bye.